This is the Can We Talk podcast, episode 17. As always, to the left of me, at this point, I have Brittany Hill.
Hey. And as you guys know, Raven is out with her ankle injury. We did get an update. Hopefully she'll be back in the building like in the next 3 weeks. So praying for you as always, Raven. Make sure you get better. We miss your spirit in the building. Hopefully at the end of the podcast, towards the end, we'll get her on today so you guys can, hear her voice and feel her energy.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that once again, we will get her on. Like, that's going to be something that I'm going to be focused on. I'm probably going to look at the time a little more than I normally do. But in the meanwhile, we have a really special guest in the building. I don't think she knows how special she is. I don't think she understands the value she brought to the original idea. I'm actually playing our second episode, which was supposed to be season 2. That shit just fell fucking apart. That shit was crazy. But we have Ciera in the building. Really excited. Like I think this is, in my opinion, one of the most anticipated episodes I've been wanting for a long time. I've talked to both of these people in this room. I've talked to Raven.
Yes.
Getting you on here is a milestone for me in the podcast, just because, like, you said yes. Like, I told you about it.
Why would I not say yes?
I don't know, but like in my mind, I'm always thinking about things as far as the podcast goes. Like a no, like I'm waiting for a no. But like when you originally set up the podcast for me, you set the foundation for the podcast. At the end of the day, that's exactly what it was. You set the podcast foundation, and it allowed me to move forward with a lot of different situations. Ciera Dotson, tell us about you.
About me. Let me put on my Clubhouse voice. So I'm actually really excited to be here. I mean, just as excited I was the day that she asked me to be your co-host. That was big. Very proud of all your success. I would never tell you no. People have like this weird idea, I feel like, of what my life is like. Like, what does she do all day? like, why would I ever say no? But me, I'm actually really, really great. I know last year when I turned 29, I was terrified of getting older, but now 30 honestly has been very good to me. Very, very good to me. I mean, except for when I had COVID. I wasn't 30 at that point, but I was like 29 Eve, about to be 30, and that was bad. But other than that, it's been a good year. So, moving on up. What have you been up to?
This is not what we do. Like, I like how you like to like trade, like move the conversation into like questions about what.
This is a
doing.
lot of pressure. I've been working all day.
I do want to add in before we transition into the other things that we're going to discuss. I just want to let you know I'm honored to meet you. Calvin has spoken very highly of you on several occasions. Told me about your book and everything like that. So I'm just honored, that you are back on with us.
No,
I'm excited.
Thank you. I'm excited to meet you. I'm really happy to be here. I know how much this means to Calvin, so he would not have anybody sitting next to him who did not deserve that seat. So I already know you're most likely amazing. When I see my book up there, I almost cried. I was like, oh man, my lashes gonna come off.
Yes.
And I mean, as far as like, we will get into our relationship as far as like who me and C are, but like just thinking back to like that Zoom call with like 20 people plus on your book release. That was crazy.
It was amazing. And so I had to have a virtual book release because we were in the midst of COVID. It was May 2nd. And I actually did like this really cool promotion this year on the anniversary. I did a promo. I'm like, listen, this is my story. This is a couple of things that I talk about. Like, are you like me? Do you feel like this story is like yours? Like, do you feel like you can relate to it? Like, I'll send you the book for free. Like, I've sold almost 300 books at this point. It was never about the money for me. Awesome. I just wanted my art out there. And when I finally got to the point where I wasn't scared of my art being judged, I was able to be vulnerable and just be like, you know what? This is my truth. Yeah. If you agree with it, great. I don't need your acceptance anymore. Like, that was big for me to get to that point and be like, you know what? This is the story that I feel like it needs to be told. And if it can just help one person, if just one person can relate to this and be like, damn, I'm not alone, bet. Okay, I'm going to keep trying. Like, look at my life now. Like, in that posted up, I'm like, man, there were nights like I could not get off the floor. Like I could not physically move. I was so overcome with grief that like I was begging God, like, do not make me wake up tomorrow. Like I cannot feel this way anymore. And to know the joy and the success that I have now, I'm like, man, if I can, sometimes we're like, God, why am I going through this? And what I've learned in my growth is that everything is not about us.
Absolutely.
Sometimes we need to go through something so that we can be a testament to somebody else and be like, listen, I did it. And you can do it too.
Talk that talk.
Yeah, girl. So if just one, and so many people hit me up, then I'm just like, listen, you ain't got to comment under here and tell me what you're going through. Message me privately. Like I have sent out 15 books. 15 books just off of me saying, listen, just send me your address. I don't want nothing from you. Like, just hopefully you'll feel that. And the feedback that I'm getting is amazing.
Yeah, because
it feels so good.
Helping somebody out, helping somebody through their struggle is worth way more than how much you can receive from, selling the book. Like you potentially have saved a life, and that you can't put a price tag on that.
Listen, you cannot put a price tag on that. Like mental health is, I'm just so passionate about it because your mind has a mind of its own. So when your mind is fighting you, man, you ever see the posting like, Lord, some of these weapons forms against me have been prospering.
They prospering.
You know what I mean? Like it's a scary feeling. I wouldn't wish it on anybody. I wouldn't wish it on anybody. So like to be back from that place and to just be so happy. I'm like, man, I just want somebody to know like you can get there. And like I tell people all the time, temporary just means it's not going to last forever. It could be 10 minutes, 10 years, 10,000 days. It just means that you are not going to stay here, but it just takes somebody to tell you that you're going to be okay.
Absolutely.
And just like I have a government degree, and when I was in college, I was bartending at the Westin at the National Harbor, and I met all these attorneys. I'm like, I'm going to law school. I'm going to practice law. I'm going to practice legislation. And like, kid, live your life. Yeah. Like, because all the people you want to help are going to look at you like you're crazy because you ain't been through shit. Go get a job that don't pay you no money and can't pay a bill. Because how you want to tell somebody that they can get through something or create some type of standard or legislation to help people that you can't relate to? It was one of the best pieces of advice I ever got. So much has happened just by me just deciding to live my life.
Absolutely.
So, no, definitely.
Well, kudos to you.
Thank you.
And with the success of your book and, just overcoming anything is just a blessing in itself.
Never would have met.
Girl. So kudos to you.
Thank you.
I always say, I went through some depression and I came out of that during COVID and just focusing on myself and stuff like that. And let me tell you, the peace that I have now, like it's just such a beautiful place. So when, like you said, when you get through it and you get over it and you're just happy, like it's a sacred place. So just kudos to you.
Thank you so much.
Where you are in your life.
Thank you. Yeah, it means a lot to me. For sure. Yeah. So yes, I'm just as excited to be here. It's almost like you said, like a milestone, and it's exciting to see your growth. I mean, these mics are legit. The struggle. We would have like a really great like segment and like recording, and you couldn't hear nothing. I'm like, are you kidding me? I used to be so frustrating. Like good content, cause like Calvin and I, it's like I wish my best friend Chris was here to tell you like we like brother and sister. Like obviously like I'm the oldest. Right, so like we just bicker back and forth because like he just is always testing me, and like me, like there's something about Calvin that I just cannot back down. Like I can't just let it go. I cannot let it go. That's like Calvin's thing. He like, but and he does it to get good dialogue, but you get passionate about it in the moment. Miss Hill. We shared some passion too.
We've had some moments.
Yeah, we would start the podcast and be like, hey, I'm Chef Cal. This is Ciera Dottie Von Taylor, which is my pen name, whatever the case may be. So Ciera, why are you single? And I'd be like, what?
You really going there? We doing that right
to the jugular? It's been 30 seconds. It was crazy, and we were recording at that time. So I'm like, I just couldn't hide my reaction.
Yeah.
This what we're gonna do? Because if you want to go there, we can go there.
We're gonna talk about some shit.
Yeah,
let's go.
You set the tone. Let's crazy. But now it's always a good time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good time, good content.
I mean, I learned a lot from you, to be honest with you. I think that one thing that we talked about, I don't know if you remember, but it was the big picture. and how you could be so close to something.
Absolutely.
And
I remember
if you back out of it, you get to see a way better version of what you thought you were looking at.
Did I tell you where I got that from?
I think you meant to.
No, so there was this guy that I had met when I lived in Las Vegas, and I had got the opportunity to come to Texas, and I was like, I don't know, I'm making so much money out here, and it's so pretty, and yeah, I don't really like it, but I'm getting that bag, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was like, I just don't know what my life is going to be like there. I can't really envision. I'm a visual person. Like, I need to be able, because one thing I'm always going to do is bet on myself. Like I said, like, if I'm the dog in my own fight, you know what I mean? Like, I get it done, but I have to be able to see it. Like, I'm also not an unrealistic person. So he was like, you know why you can't see it? It's like sitting in the first row at a movie theater. You're too close to the picture. Like you right there. Like you're right there. Like everything you're telling me you're worried about, you got it. Like you just got to believe in your ability. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to go. I came out here for a weekend. Crazy weekend, but I ain't going to get into it. It was a crazy weekend, but Austin felt good. You know what I mean? Like I'd never, not one day in the 3 years that I lived in Vegas that I ever felt like it was home. When I came here, I was like, I feel like I live here. You know, like it just felt good. Like I didn't feel like I was looking over my shoulder. Yeah. Like it just told me, it was the confirmation that I needed, that it was the right choice. Yeah.
And that shaped me, even with the podcast. Like there's been just a ton of like ups and downs, and a ton of just like I guess turnover is the legal and the right word to say, but it's been a lot of people coming in and out as far as the process goes, and remembering that always put me through it. Like, all right, cool, like maybe I'm just too close to it, maybe I should back away, maybe I should just like sit down and just relax and then see what the whole process is going to look like.
And always remember, the vision is what God gave to you. Yeah, it's not in my eyes. You know what I mean? So like the way that people see things, they're never going to see it with your tenacity, with your ambition, with your vision, because it wasn't given to them. This is your baby. You're going to cultivate it. You're going to make it what it needs to be because it's yours, and it just is what it is.
Absolutely.
So we thank the people who came in and blessed the mics, and you know, it's just only going to help you evolve. It's just like anybody that comes into your life. You know what I mean? Like they teach you something. My mother always say, people two things: they teach us what to do, what not to do. And you keep it pushing.
Absolutely.
That's good.
So although the intro was rough, I might just start the intro with all the shits, just like all the fuck ups. But let's get into UC. Tell the world about you. The podcast from then and now is completely different, so the audience is completely different. Tell us your start to finish to get into Texas. Your start and your finish to get into Texas. As far as like everything you've ever told me, as far as like you being in Baltimore, the verbiage is different. It's different now.
I told you I've been at work all day. I was like, what are you talking about? So long story short, I'm from Baltimore, Maryland, born and raised. I went to a performing arts school for musical theater. Wonderful experience, but I knew that I was very passionate about people. I looked at my city and I'm like, man, I gotta do something about this. Like, these people have nothing. Yeah. Like, they have nothing. Like, and they never gonna leave here. They're never gonna leave here. So, like, what can I do? So I went to school for government. I have a double degree from Bowie State University, the illustrious Bowie State University. I'm a bulldog. So I have a double degree in political science and philosophy. My concentration was public reform and law. So I didn't go to law school. I was bartending at a country club at the time, Potomac Country Club, and I was like, I want to go to law school. And I mean, it was some heavy hitters up there. And they're like, kid, don't go to law school. And I was like, why? Because I'm a girl? And they're like, no, I think you're brilliant. You are not going to get the return. You know, like 30 years ago when we went to law school, we could get out, practice law, and pay that debt off. There are 80,000 attorneys who are bartending. They're like, you will not. And they're like, and you know why? Because I'm the litigator, and him right here sitting next to me, he's the judge, and over here he's going to be interviewing the jury. He was like, the fate of man is decided right here at your bar table and out there on that golf course. And he's like, so until we stop practicing, you're not going to get your chance. Because that's why people pay so much for these attorneys, because they have the connections. They can figure out what's going on. He said court is a formality. We already know what's going to happen the second we get in there. Yeah, so And then another group of the attorney. Man, that was a wonderful experience.
That's awesome.
Because you have this idea of people who have so much, and you think they just don't care, and you think they're just probably like very like conceited, like full of themselves. And they were the nicest people. They knew my name before I knew theirs. They'd hold the door open for you. Like, they just worked hard and had money. And the one thing I also noticed about them is that a lot of them weren't old money. They got rich off of ideas.
Oh wow!
Off of ideas. So like my favorite attorney. He was an attorney, but he also had a dirt business. I'm like, I used to ask him, how you making money? He's like, dirt. And he's like, apartment building needs to be built. I'm going to go dig the hole. And then I'm going to sell that dirt to somebody else who needs a hill.
Oh, wow.
Made millions of dollars off of dirt. It's just money. There's money everywhere.
Yeah.
There's money everywhere.
You got to go get it.
You just got to go get it.
Yep.
Yeah. So they were like, listen, go live your life. Like I said, like you have to be able to be somebody who can relate to the people that you're trying to help, right? So you have to have a story to be able to kind of inspire people. So I graduated college. I was bartending at a bar at the National Harbor, and the senior vice president of sustainability, his name was Jim Byer, great guy. He was living in our Westin Hotel because they were building an MGM at the National Harbor in DC. So he was like, you should go to Vegas. I was like, what? I'm not going to Vegas. And he's like, no. He's like, listen, you already graduated college. You're not married. You ain't got no kids. Like, go live your life. Go out there, make some money, pay your school debt off. Then go do whatever else you want, right? That's actually where I got Jim Byer, is how I got the title of my book, but I learned in college.
Oh, wow.
So we were talking about, I was like, are you kidding me? I just spent 4 years getting this great degree from this great institution.
Yeah.
He's like, the only thing you're supposed to learn in college is how to grow up. If you ain't learned that, you just wasted 4 years of your life and $60,000. So I went home that night and I get all my best ideas in the shower. So I'm just like, in the shower for the hour, and I'm just like, what did I learn in college? I'm like, man, I went through a lot in college. You know, like I battled depression. I partied a lot. I want to say in every stage of my life, I did what I was supposed to do. Like, I had a wonderful time in high school, had a great time in college, but like, I also went through a lot. Yeah. And I was like, man, I learned a lot about myself, a lot about people, a lot about life. That's what I learned in college. So then I just went home and I started taking the pieces that I wrote from our freshman year of college, like post-graduation. And I just realized, like, oh, wow, these tell a story. So I just kind of put them in order, and that's how my book came about, what I learned in college. So that's where I got the title. So I was in Vegas getting money. Like, and I was getting money. And it's kind of crazy because I've always been in a position, I mean, I bartended in college. I used to make $600 a night. Like, I've always been in a position where I made money. But it was in Vegas that I realized I don't want to be the person who just follows money. Like, one thing that I dealt with when I was in college is that I literally buried 6 people within 5 months. Like, that was definitely a big attribute to my depression. Like, I didn't know how to cope with any of that. And like, something that I learned later on is that a lot of the defense mechanisms that we learned as children. The first time that we ever came into defense of anything, we felt like we needed to protect ourselves. So the way that we shut down, or the way that we just stopped communicating, the way that we self-medicate, we learned those things young. And we never retaught ourselves or relearned ourselves to know, okay, well, this isn't effective. So what's a better way to do this, right? So I was like, man, I don't want to be the person who's always just following money. Like, I've lost out on so many opportunities to spend time with people, to travel. There was so much that a lot of people my age had done. I didn't go out of the country for the first time in my life until last month. And I'm like, man, like, I literally made $100,000 the year that I was 24. And I'd never been out of the country. I was like, that's crazy. Like, I've been making so much money and I'm not doing nothing with it. And I'm just like, I want to have a life. Like, I want to have a life. I want to be able to say that I'm living and just not kind of going through the motions. So I knew that I didn't like Vegas. It's not a livable place. Like, it's definitely got a lot of benefits, but I knew I wasn't going to meet anybody there that I really kind of wanted to settle down.
That wasn't forever.
It wasn't forever. So I had an opportunity to come to Texas. And like we said, we talked about, I decided to come. So I was still selling cars at the time, still making great money, still miserable. I was working 90 hours a week, was tired all the time. I didn't really know anybody here. I was just like, this is not living. Like, this is not life. And after everything that I have been through to make myself successful, what is it for if I'm not going to enjoy it? Like, this is dumb. So I left the dealership and I didn't work for like 2 months. Because one thing about me, I'm really good at saving. So I was like, I got almost a year worth of my bills. Like, I can chill, you know what I mean? Like, figure out what's going on. And I was like, you know what? Austin's a big tech town. Let me see if I can find, like, some type of tech to get into. And the other thing is there's so many companies that are based in Austin. I was like, wow, like, that's amazing. And, like, people here are just so excited about Austin anything. Yeah. And so I was like, let me just kind of do some research. So I found Protect America. I went in, joined the sales team. Number one, first month, I'm like, listen, I just got done selling $200,000 cars. You tell me to sell somebody something for $50 a month, girl, got it. Watch me work. You know what I mean? I did that, and we had our retention department at the time. The team was great. They'd been there pretty tenured, but a lot of them came from the customer care. So they were very technical. They didn't really know how to have a conversation. So I actually left Protect America because I was going to go back to my brother's dealership and I was going to go in finance. Okay. Well, I failed my drug test. So I'm like, are you kidding me? I haven't smoked weed in years. And the one time I smoked weed, you gotta have a drug test. I had a drug test. So the GM was like, hey, he's like, kid, you failed your drug test. And he's like, it's okay. He's like, you're just going to have to wait a couple of weeks to take it again. So in that time, there was someone I used to work for. And she had reached out to me and she's like, hey, I don't really know you that well, but I know that you're amazing at what you do and I need somebody to help me come run my department. So I was like, okay, because the reason that I left Protect America wasn't because I wasn't doing well, it's just that I felt like I could do more, you know. So I came back.
Did you ever sever those ties for the person who asked you to come back? Did y'all ever have a conversation?
You know how we talked about growth? That's the one person that I'm reserving an ass whooping for. I'll be honest. I'll be honest. The Lord, listen, I always tell people when I moved to Nevada, I was 24. And my mom was like, listen, I need to have a serious conversation with you. You gotta stop fighting. Like, you got. She's like, you can't always resort to violence. And like, it's so funny because like my mom never beat us, right? And like, she's like, I don't understand why you're like, so what crazy. Happened? I was like, you should have beat me. Maybe I'd be scared to get hit, you know? Like so, So she was like, listen, like I'm scared that like one day somebody's gonna be calling me because something has really happened to you. She's like, you have to calm down, you know? So it's like, all right, and I be telling people, listen, you lucky you met me at 30, at 29, at 28, at 27, because my mother ain't had to talk with me. I'd have been whooped your ass, you know what I mean? But I'm grown now.
So you got one left in you, and you holding it on.
And honestly, I say that, but in
I hope not. I want y'all to be good.
Listen, because I really don't want to be that person because after it's done, it's not even going to feel good. Like if I really did that, especially because like, that to me means that I haven't really healed, and that's what would be very disappointing to me.
And when you know you made so much growth, and then it's almost like, you know, relapsing or something like that. Like you don't.
She
after it happened,
a couple times.
like it happened. Like no, but it feels good in the moment. But then when you look back and you're like, damn, I'm better than that.
That's what I mean. Like. That's what I mean. And like my mother always says, like my mother's a pastor, right? Love my mother to death. Yeah. She's the best person ever. It's funny because people are like, you're so smart. My mother was looking like, I told you that. That advice you just, I get.
My mom's an ordained minister. So she's the same way. Like she'll tell, you know, give us advice or something, and then, you know, we hear you. We still hear you, but it's it hits a little different when somebody else that is not so close to the situation tells you something.
It can be objective.
I'll go back and be like, so and so said. And she's like, I said that too.
My mother is so wise. And it's funny because I tell people all the time, like, I have literally been to the point where, like, I'm about to put my hands on somebody and I'm like, I'm going to call my mother and you better hope she answers this phone. Because if she don't answer this phone, that's your ass. So actually, like, in my mind, the anger that I feel towards this person, it's just really, that person is so small. Just like we talked about earlier, like, it's somebody who is so damaged, right? Like it's you see how
you have a little bit of mercy. That mercy kicks in.
But it's very small. The mercy is molecular. It's molecular, especially because like I'm real good at playing dumb, right? So like in my last situation, I had to play really dumb because I had to make sure that I was protecting myself professionally, right? I had to make sure I was protecting myself professionally. So a lot of things that I did, I'm very meticulous, right? So I'm like, okay.
You were moving how you were moving.
Yeah, I was moving how I was moving. And it was so hard to not be myself. I'm like, ooh.
Yeah.
You just don't know how much in danger you are right now in front of me. Like, right. You just don't, like, people just don't know that they don't know you. That's the thing. Right. People don't know that you really don't know me. And like, I would be in like a group chat with my best friends, and they'd be like, "And you not calling us from jail? Like, what?"
Right.
People just don't know. They don't know.
They're just sparing them. I'm sparing you.
Sparing you. But yeah, so like, that person did like a lot of really, really terrible things to me and to a lot of people around us. But at the end of the day, hurt people hurt people.
Absolutely.
It's not an excuse for what she did, but I can have that compassion in my heart that like, had you maybe had an opportunity to heal from the things that have hurt you, you may be a different person. Yeah. And honestly, me hurting you would just be a triple effect. You hurt me because you're hurt, and now I'm hurting you back because what you. It just doesn't make any sense.
Never ending.
So in hindsight, in my mind, it would feel good, but like I know
you gonna let him make it.
Yeah.
You haven't had that conversation to this point.
Absolutely not. Okay. I can't trust myself to do that. I'm gonna be honest with you. Like my mother say all the time, I'm not that good of a Christian. I'm not there in my growth with that person. I'm just not.
So I'll interject into her story. She was at PA. This is my ex-boss, first of all. I didn't listen.
The person or you're
No. We're that person. We're not even talking about that anymore.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I met Calvin because when I came over to that department to kind of teach them how to sell and to develop their skill, he had just got hired on. So we basically started in the department. But I had already been with the company.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha.
Yes.
Okay. Gotcha. I'm following.
Yeah. So he was my boss. Did I listen? Probably not. Well, actually, I never listened. I was a struggle for her. Like I'm a person who really just I don't like when you tell me what you think I should be doing.
But you were a blessing for me. You know why? The whole team was because as somebody who wants to lead people, you have to learn how to speak people's languages, right? Mm-hmm. Everybody learns different. Mm-hmm. Everybody's background is different. Everybody's willingness to change is different. Mm-hmm. And it really humbled me to be like, you know what? I do something really great and I can show other people how to do it too. Too much dip on your chip, shorty. Like, calm down, because you have to meet people where they are. Absolutely. And it was a very humbling experience, but like, it's one I'm extremely grateful for. Like, as I was in that position, I used to be like, God, what is it that you want me to learn from this experience? Because I'm about to go to jail. Like, what is going on?
How many people were you over?
About 15 at the most. Okay. But as the company started to, and it's like in hindsight, we should have known the day was about to crash.
Facts. Like if you think about the shit, the practices and the bullshit, we shouldn't have been.
In hindsight, we should have known. Listen, sometimes I get mad at myself that I didn't sue them. I'm like, man, like I fumbled the bag.
Man,
that's what I was telling you. I was like, I've seen different. Like I've worked for different retention departments, but I've seen them and not the same.
Listen.
It's not the same.
Yeah. But you know what? So once Protect America closed, that was July 1st. I took like 4 months just to travel.
Ooh.
I was all over. Yeah, I was all over the place. But like in hindsight, I needed that time. Yeah. Because I didn't realize until I was out of that situation how bad it was.
Oh, really?
Like the emotional and mental abuse and manipulation. Yeah. It was bad.
From the top to the bottom, like just the manipulation of just like everyday conversations was crazy.
It's crazy. And I started watching Game of Thrones, and The Office is my favorite sitcom, right? So I used to tell people I can point out somebody from the Office cast in my building, but when I started watching Game of Thrones, I'm like, nah, I take that back. I can point out somebody from Game of Thrones here, and I really am glad that I watched that show. I know it sounds kind of crazy, but it really helped me to interact with them on a higher level. Yeah. I'm like, I gotta start playing chess on the moon. You know what I mean? I gotta think bigger and I gotta think ahead. So it really helped me get to the end because the unemployment was lovely. And you know what? All the tax money that I have paid, they owe me that money. So I'm not even tripping.
We'll talk off screen as far as getting some taxes back because of that kind of trauma. Mm-hmm. But even when we were working there, the end port. A part of it was crazy. If you don't have a computer, you're done. Yeah, that's great. That was wild to me.
I purposely went and got a COVID test so that I would wait. I would have to wait. So that I would have to wait.
I don't know
because I was just I just couldn't do it. I was like, listen, I know that I can't quit because then I won't qualify for unemployment. Right. But
and we're not talking about an entity. This is America Protect. Yeah.
Yeah. Sure. I cannot take one more second in this building. I can't do it.
It was tough. She was out. I think the
like the last 2 weeks
in the building. She was like, I'm out.
It was so hard. But the other thing that was really serious is that I have a mentor here. I have 2 mentors here, based off of the age difference. One is really like my dad, and one's like my brother, right? So he had a major stroke, and he got really sick, and he could not be around people. So that was the other thing that was really. They were taking no precautions for COVID. They had families.
Oh, you're talking about they worked there too.
No, he didn't work there, but like the office was taking no precautions. We were still in the building, So I was like, I cannot risk getting him sick. His body can't take it.
Yeah,
he can't take it. So so I when I got the test, it was definitely because I was trying to be proactive, but also because I was just like, I cannot stay in here, especially because like it's like the last day of school. Come like, well, I'm gonna beat your ass. Like, you know, I was like, I gotta get out.
I need just how you remove yourself from that situation in Rio. Yeah, the same thing. Removing
you. Thank you for reminding me of that growth. Thank you.
Yes, look at you.
Look, I'm getting hot thinking about it.
It was a tough transition because like when the pandemic actually like popped off business wise, they did everything to make sure we were in the building. Like they sent mad like information to make sure we were in there.
They hired attorneys to get us. But it's because they were selling the business and they didn't tell anybody yet. So because we didn't know, they could not risk not making money or having any loss of income and that deal not go through. Sick. You put people's lives in jeopardy.
And
then we got a random email like a week and a half or a month and a half.
I was off. It was April 19th because my best friend that moved here from Baltimore, that's the day he got here. So we were like out hiking. I remember I was at Mount Bunnell and I got an email that said warn notice. And I was like,
you was definitely out. Like
my team all started. We weren't even supposed to have our phones in there because it was a call center, and they were all texting me like, we're losing our jobs, and I was like,
Tiffany told me. Like, I didn't believe it. Tiff told me. She was like, yo, we out of here.
Crazy.
Before the email came out?
And then they did it in the middle of a shift. So you sent out a mass email telling people they was going to lose their jobs and their livelihood, but you want them to continue to be productive. That was just sick. The things that they did was sick.
Yeah.
It was tough, and I don't understand how that business plan existed for 20 years. Like, I don't understand how that worked.
Because I know a couple of people that said that they've worked there before.
They worked there before, but they didn't get kicked out.
No, they didn't get kicked out, but I just heard the name. So,
yeah. Because it was an Austin-based company and it had been around for, I think, 1992.
I know some people that work there.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
But you know what? It was good for what it was good for. I thank God for the experience because I had never experienced anything like that in my life, but now I have it in my arsenal.
Yeah.
And when I start to see the signs, I know how to prepare for it. I know how to defend myself. So, lesson or a lesson?
Absolutely.
Like that job, it got me jobs after because of that experience. Like, because it wasn't a good experience. Like,
also, because they're closed. So I'm putting on my resume whatever the fuck I want. I was the CEO. Who they gonna call? Catch me in a lie. Catch me in a lie. I was the CEO. Catch me in a lie.
It's crazy because so the job I'm with now, like, the job doesn't exist, but they really wanted my W-2s type of energy. I don't keep them shits. I never kept my W-2s for that extended amount of time.
You know what's weird? I keep getting mail. I literally got I literally got 3. I'm like, I don't need this anymore. That was 2 years ago.
Because now companies want, like, if the company closes and it no longer exists, whoever you, like, decide to partner with or be employed by, they want the W-2s from the previous employer. So I think that there's a thing with new companies or companies that exist that are like, if we can't get that, it's impossible. But I think people are saying some shit.
That's interesting. Reason being that I literally just accepted an offer for a new position yesterday. And they wanted me so bad, it didn't even sound like they was going to do a background check. No, we need you. We need you. You know, so and they didn't do no extra into that or nothing. So, I mean, I think it's probably just depends on, like you said, somebody's probably doing something incorrect because it's how all rules and regulations begin.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. Oh Lord, I thank you for the growth, for the deliverance. Man, I had PTSD. Like real live PTSD from that situation.
I saw it in real time, but I'm always even killed. Like, I don't really care like how you come to me, and like a lot of things were in that situation, it was like one person tells me one thing, another person tells me a different thing, and I have to react to it. I never reacted.
Yeah.
Because I didn't care.
Yeah.
It was so funny. Calvin is like that person who just like sitting his work doing his job. He hears everything. People are just telling him stuff. And you come to talk to him, he'd be like, hey, he'd be like, yeah, I knew that last week. Because you just know you can trust him.
Yeah,
so people felt so comfortable telling him everything. Like if I need to know something, like, help me out, Kevin, please. Like, are they coming back to work? What's going? Did they quit? Like, tell me what's going on.
That's so bad. Like
hold me down.
I literally don't care what you tell me, and I don't know why people feel comfortable enough.
And
to tell
didn't you say that? Didn't you say that on one of the other episodes? You were like, I didn't talk, but people always were talking to me.
Correct.
Always. Because think about it. Who better to tell your business to than the person who's not going to just
run their mouth,
open up the information?
Yeah.
I'm not going.
You can't even get him to talk about him,
right? So I know you ain't gonna tell my shit. Yeah.
Facts. I ain't got nothing to say. I don't know. So did what? That's crazy. How we gonna catch him? What's next?
Oh my god,
that's hilarious.
My friend Vashti did she's like got a really big following on TikTok, and she did like this one like voiceover, and it was basically like how all the different zodiac signs react in a robbery. And Calvin's gonna be a person like, you want 10s, 20s, like what is it you can do so you can get out of my way? Like, I do not care.
Right.
I do not care. Give me your bag.
Facts. Rob me. That's cool.
Yeah.
Hey, do what you gotta do.
Like, why do you got your guns up, sir? You don't need no gun for this. This is not my money.
I see you from down the street. Now we're
Yeah.
I already had it stacked for you.
Listen,
I saw you coming in.
I am so good at mine, and my business is not funny. It's like something I take pride in.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Let's jump into these questions that I didn't prepare because I'm supposed to be the podcast host. And we only got 10 minutes till we reach out to Raven.
I'm so childish. I just replay clips of Wildin' Out on my head all day long, and I was thinking of, remember I said like, can you name a Nick Cannon song? And when Chica Beam was like, I'm a gigolo with a lot of dough and my legs are skinny like a flamingo. I just keep saying it in my head.
So what question you want to jump into? There was 2, right?
Yes. Do you mind if I ask a question before we jump into the next
let's
question?
go.
I just curious, just tell me a little bit about your experience on the podcast when it first originated. Like, just kind of.
So I think the beautiful thing about the podcast when it first started is that it was fresh. So we didn't have like a lot of guidelines we were trying to follow. Okay. There wasn't another podcast we were trying to imitate. It was just us.
Exactly.
Right.
And because our energy just bounces back and forth off of each other, it was just so natural. You know, like he would post some questions on Facebook. Dumbass questions. I used to get so irritated. Like, I'm not talking about
these
that.
birds.
I'm not talking about that. I was like, come on now. I'm not talking about that. So, like, just kind of open up the discussion. But because we had a real relationship, that's the difference. We had a real relationship. You know what I mean?
Prior to.
So it was easy. We didn't have to pretend like we like each other. We didn't have to pretend to relate. We did. You know? So it made it even better because, like, okay, like, I'm sitting here talking about things that other people care about in my experiences with somebody that I know values this information and is going to protect it. You know, like, I'm talking to my friend, like, I'm talking to somebody I feel like it's like my little brother. So it was fun. Like, we had a lot of fun. It was definitely amazing when he would cook for me the 2 times. One time he made me these shrimp and grits. Girl.
Is this the second time that I've heard about your shrimp and grits? Or something?
Oh no! So Labria, who was on the episode, I think 2 episodes ago, she made me shrimp and grits.
But she was just asking some of your. Okay.
So yeah,
it was amazing.
It was amazing, but like I said, because we just got to be ourselves. Yeah. We literally just came together and were ourselves. Right. And there wasn't any expectations about, okay, we need to be funny, we need to be serious. We just were Chef Cal and C. So that it was beautiful because it just was limitless. Yeah. So I enjoyed it.
And looking at it now, like, how does that look to you? Like, because you know where it started to where it is now. Like, you know, just in your eyes, how does that look to you?
So I like to let people enjoy things.
Okay.
And what I mean by that is, I know that there are some things that I do really well. I know that I have a lot of wonderful information and experiences to share with people. I really enjoy the fact that so many different people have come because they've all added something different. It's like gumbo, you know, like it's a chef reference, you know what I mean? But like everybody was kind of like a different ingredient, a different spice. And I don't think that one person was necessarily better than the other. I think it show the diversity that it had the ability to be, you know what I mean? Like I just feel like it also said a lot about Calvin, like, hey, these people are so different from each other. Raven is a great friend of mine, but Raven and I are very different, you know what I mean?
Okay.
The young lady Khadijah, I never met her in person, but she and I, based off of some of her opinions, Kay, we were very different, you know? So I did not feel like one person made it worse or made it better. I think it just opened up so much room for creativity. And I think that it was wonderful to see that, hey, not only do I relate to this person, but I relate to this person. Right. And I feel like it also showed a lot of versatility in Calvin, you know, and who he is.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, I mean, I think it's amazing. I think it's awesome. And that it didn't stop, you know, like it didn't stop. Like, hey, one thing I always tell people is that, like, being able to adjust, like in my book, one of the last things in there is like 10 things I learned in college. Actually, it's probably like 20, right? And it says, be willing to adjust. Yeah. When I got to Vegas, I hated it. And I was so devastated. I'm like, God, like, I worked so hard to get here. Yeah. And I don't like it. Like, I just wanted to have this wonderful life. And again, I was making a lot of money. But one thing I also learned out there is, well, actually, I kind of knew that before I got there. Money is nothing. Yeah. Money is a tool. You
had this money, but you weren't living, like you said.
Exactly. Money is a tool. It's necessary. Yeah. It's not the end all be all, you know? So like,
and I think a lot of people miss that. I think a lot of people just focus on trying to get to the bag or just getting X amount of money, or I gotta touch a meal. I gotta do this. Yeah. Don't miss out on life.
Right, and from somebody who's made over $100,000 a year, trust me, you ain't taking that home. You know, you're not taking it. Once you're in that tax bracket, you're not taking it home. So that's another thing I realized. I'm like, yo, I don't need to make $100,000 a year to be comfortable, but to feel fulfilled. You know what I mean? And to have that security. So, I mean, being willing to adjust, I got there. I'm like, all right, well, maybe God just wanted me here. Yeah. So let me be open to this experience and what it can bring to me. And I met somebody who changed my life. Shannon has changed my life. Yeah. Like I always tell people, because like in many ways he's almost like my dad. Like even though we're closer in age, like a brother. I'm like him and Charles.
Explain Shannon. I don't think the masses now know.
Oh, okay. So when I was in Vegas, stopped bartending. I'm like, okay. When I moved to Vegas, it took like 15 grand with me. So I'm like, whatever happens, I'm gonna be okay. Right? Like I always set myself up for success. So I stopped bartending because I had a weight requirement, and it was just like miserable. Like you couldn't be over, you couldn't be under, and it was based off of your height. I'm like, because they contract you as a model. I'm like, this is miserable. Like, I don't like this, right? So I'm like, okay. I left the casino. I'm like, so what am I gonna do? So I'm just like looking for a job, and I was like, oh, it was a dealership that was giving a $3,000 guaranteed bonus just for signing. I was like, I could sell cars in the meantime. If anything, I just take that $3,000, you know, just like save it up, whatever. So I got there and I was like, ooh, I like this, you know? And the GM at the time, he's like I said, my brother now, his name's Shannon Clay. He's a dealership flipper. So he's from Texas. He was out there because he had worked for the owners at the dealerships that they had here. And what they would do is that they would buy on a producing dealership. Okay. They would bring him in there. He would train the sales floors, whip him into shape. They would start producing and selling a lot of money. And then they would sell the dealership and break him off his piece. And he'd come back to Texas and live his life, right? So I met him and they were black, right? So I'm like, wow. It's a pretty high position. I've never heard of a black man being in. And like they even came out and did an article about him because they could not believe a black man was out there running their dealership. Oh wow! So he was like, you know what? He's like, you're out by yourself? And I was like, yeah. He's like yourself? I was like, yeah. And he's like, so how you feel about this? And I was like, I like it. He's like, well, I mean, you're really good. And he was like, you got a good work ethic. He was like, and you're really smart. He's like, I teach you how to make some money. He showed me his W-2. Girl, I never looked back.
Oh, look at you.
Yeah, so
shout out to him.
Yeah, absolutely. But he really brought me into like family, right? Like he became my family, and it made it a lot more livable there because I had somebody that I could depend on. I remember not long after I started working for him, I was somewhere I shouldn't have been, and my car got towed, and it was like 3 a.m. I had nobody to call, right? And I was like, oh, I think my boss was out here. So I called him. I was like, hey, I'm kind of stranded. Well, not really. I don't want this guy to take me home. Like, can you come get me? And he came and got me. Oh, wow. And only knew me for like 2 weeks. Like, he came and got me. And ever since then, We just been rocking strong. Yeah.
Locked in.
So I joke all the time that, like, you know, my dad, like, raised me, but, like, Shannon and Charles, they raised the adult me. You know, like, my dad is a great dad. He's very compassionate, very loving, very supportive. But, like, when I thought about it, I'm like, I can't think of one thing my dad has taught me. You know what I mean? Like, taught me how to love back, you know, taught me how to be supportive, taught me how to be, like, there. But, like, I can't think of anything that he has taught me how to do. And, like, Shannon taught me how to change a tire. He's taught me about finances, about credit, about money. Him and Charles have taught me so much. And so I was like, you know, they raised the adult me. So, it's just been so wonderful. I mean, like, they changed my life. Like, all the money that I made working for him, I would have blew. Like, I would have blew, because I've always been in a position where I make money fast, so I spend it fast because I know I can make it again. And he taught me how to make my money grow. I didn't work for almost a year, and I was able to do that because of things that he's taught me about how to make my money last. So I could never thank God enough for them.
Well, that's awesome.
That relationship is so sacred to me.
That's awesome.
Absolutely.
Are you looking at me?
I honestly, because I'm always so in the moment, I don't even remember what we was talking about.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
Which makes sense. I think.
The podcast.
Yes.
We were talking about the. All right, so let's trickle back. We were talking about the podcast. Where it is now. No, I still don't know.
We were talking about that, but you said Shannon changed your life.
Being willing to adjust. So I said all that to say that being willing to adjust is so critical in life, because if I had been out there and I was just like, oh my gosh, I just hate it, I'm gonna go back home, and I was determined not to go back to Baltimore. I was like, if I stay in Maryland, I'm never going to be any more than what I am. I had already accomplished all the goals that I had set for myself there, and the life that I just seen people living, I'm like, I don't want this, you know. So had I not been willing to adjust, I mean, all these wonderful things that I have, all these experiences, like all this knowledge, I wouldn't have had.
Met the people that you met.
Met the people that I had. My family is so much bigger now. Yeah. I mean, he flew my mother out here recently, and like we just, he I'm telling you, solid as a rock. I'm telling you. So yeah, like that's awesome. Being willing to adjust. So that's a great thing that I like to see that the podcast has evolved to, is your willingness to adjust, because perfection doesn't have a face, right? Like, people think that it does, but it doesn't, because your success is not measured off of anybody's inability to see it.
Correct.
So I'm definitely happy to see the way that it's grown. These mics are crazy.
And I think that actually transitions into just a traditional conversation, right? Like, when it came to me starting the podcast, at that point, you were my number one person that I really wanted to be involved with.
Was it just you two at the beginning, or was there a third person?
It was just us.
Okay.
She cleared that up. Yeah, it was just us. So,
I didn't mean it like that.
I'm just kidding.
No, I didn't mean it like that.
So it was just me and C. But I think I did like maybe a trial run, a 6-episode kind of like filler for people, and C was definitely, without a doubt, the person that I wanted to be a part of the process that early. Like, it was crazy. Like, we talked at work.
Yeah, that means a lot to me.
We was at work.
That you wanted me to be a part of your vision.
And you know, for whatever reason, I think that the pandemic played a part into like how that would grow. But I think at the end of the day, like, if that had did what it did, I don't know if it would equal this.
This is true.
Honestly,
like, she set the foundation.
1,000%. Because had she said no, I would have stopped.
I mean, no,
that's a lot of credit.
Set the foundation and set the tone, and I definitely feel like, you know, just like when you build something, right? That the foundation is the most important part. So, you know, I feel like you played a very, very important role in
literally,
setting that foundation.
if she had said no, I don't know what it would look like now. And I know it was a weird kind of dynamic, because she's my boss, and I was like the guy not listening to her.
Don't tell nobody you at my house. You were never here.
I think the dynamic was always going to be there, but I think the struggle of us working together, and she doing whatever she has to do, and me doing what I have to do, just it wouldn't have meshed if she said no.
Honestly, this last year, especially because with the pandemic, so much has changed about my life, but I feel like that solitude that I had the ability to experience really gave me a lot of clarity, because I had a chance to just step back and really think about things. In hindsight, I don't think I realized in the moment how much losing my job was affecting me. I've always been a provider. I've always been a breadwinner. I've always been somebody who's prepared for the rainy day. Yeah. And when that happened, I think because sometimes you just get so used to taking it to the chin and moving forward. I didn't realize how much mentally it was. I was scared, and I can say that now, like, I was scared. I'm like, oh my gosh. I'm like,
you talking about you were scared when you lost your job?
Knowing that, because it's not like they just said, hey, they gave us a 2 month notice. For 2 months, I knew it was just terrible timing. My best friend had just moved here.
Like having to, what am I going to do? Like, you're thinking about that. Yeah, okay,
it was just too much. So like, my best friend had moved here the day that I found out I was losing my job, right? My dad is sick, you know what I mean? Like, he had a major stroke, and he'd already been having little strokes, but he had like a big one that like had left him. So like, it was too much going on in my life, and the only thing that I knew how to do was keep it pushing. So I didn't take that time to really dissect it, to really understand it and accept what was going on. And like I said, in hindsight, it affected so many of the things that I did and the decisions I made, and I didn't even realize half the time why I was making certain decisions. But I was just in that mindset, like tunnel vision. You just got to keep going. Like, I could not handle it, so the way that I protected myself was just to kind of like keep pushing. Like, you'll deal with it later.
So let me ask you a question. Since you come from a spiritual background, do you feel like in that moment? Because sometimes I feel like God has to sit us down.
Absolutely.
Do you feel like you were?
God can't work when we moving.
You were going. You feel like you were doing too much, so God kind of had to slow you down.
I was doing too much,
and that, like you said, that allowed you to see.
Absolutely, yeah. I was doing too much, and what happens is, like, my mother and I talk about this all the time. If we're moving forward, because we know that we have to rest for God to work, right? Because it's just like me trying to cook and trying to get out the kitchen. I can't do what I'm trying to do for you because you're trying to do it too. You feel me? But it's almost like, so two things are true, right? We got to let God work, which means we have to sit still. But we also know when we ask God for things, we have to show him that we're ready for that, right? So which means that there's some work that you have to do. You can't just sit back. So I think my go-to is, I'm a fixer. I'm an educator. I'm an executor. If there's a problem, don't call me to vent. I'm gonna let you vent for about 10 minutes, and then I'm gonna come up with a solution. And if that's not what you want, you know not to call me, because I'm not the person who's gonna wallow. We're gonna figure this out, right? So to me, I'm always in the figure it out, keep pushing, do it, get through it. That I didn't allow myself that grace to be like, it's okay to be scared about this change. Like, you weren't prepared for it. 2 months is, based off of the position that I apply for and the job that I do, 2 months is not enough time to find something that's going to sustain me before this ends. I have a lot of people that I take care of, and a lot of people depend on me. And I just could not believe, after all, I'm like, man, like, where is the light at the end of the tunnel? I've been going through this mental abuse and like all this stuff for so long, waiting for like this big reward. Like, okay, God, I know you got something big for me coming. And then I lose my job. Like, what is going on? So like, I feel like a lot of things suffered in that time that I didn't even realize. Like, relationships that I weren't nurturing, ideas that I weren't nurturing, just so much suffered during that time because I was just too busy trying to make it. Just to stay above water. I was just treading.
And I think sometimes too, we get caught up in, we say we trust God, right? And, we know you got us, but then sometimes we get caught up in, we got to make it happen. You know what I'm saying?
Because trust is the action word.
Yeah. So I feel like it comes, I feel like we're one and the same. Like, we just keep going. We got to keep, this pops up, we're not gonna let this knock us down.
We're black women in America. We don't have the luxury of sitting around and wowing about something.
But at the same time, God wants us to, hey, trust me. Right. You know what I'm saying? And I think sometimes, we have to move out of his way so he can show you that he has you.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
And the sick thing about it is, he never lets me down.
Ever.
He never
so
lets
why
me
do we
down.
stress? And why do we worry?
It's the part of us that's human. Lord, that's the part of me that ain't like you. I be worrying. Like, and I'm sorry. But no, you're right. So like I was saying,
my biggest question is, what happened with us in that podcast kind of dynamic?
Yeah, so like I said, wasn't going to get paid out. They were the worst company ever. I wasn't going to get paid out for all this PTO that I had, which anybody listening, take your time off. Don't hold it. Don't think that you're being a good employee because they don't care about you. And when it's time for that time to not be paid out, honey, they will not hesitate to be like, nope, take it or lose it. Yeah. So I took 2 weeks off of work. So when I was out, Calvin was like, okay, well, there's still episodes that I need to film. You're going to go spend some time with your family. I'm going to have somebody come in and kind of like hold your place. Okay. I feel like there was a lot of miscommunication in between us. Absolutely. But again, I wasn't in the right mind. Okay. I was just on defense with everything. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I was on defense with everything. And it's just like what you guys were talking about, the potential question, like, why do people jump to arguments instead of conversations? Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Because I was on 100, right? Yeah. And I was just like, everything, like, it's me. Like, it's me against the world right now.
You took the words right out of my mouth. I was thinking you feel like you're fighting the world, right? Yeah. So everything's coming at you
every little thing, right, because my senses were so heightened. Every little thing felt like an attack. Yes. Anything that wasn't support felt like an attack. Yeah. And it's because I wasn't in the mindset to take the time and be like, ask a question. Yeah. Have a conversation. And so much was going on, and like, give people grace. The same things that you're going through, other people are going through too. Like, give people grace. Like, hey, maybe he didn't have that conversation with you before you left, but maybe he just forgot, right? But everything feels like an attack when you are there. So it was just bad timing, you know. Like someone, and even because my best friend that moved here, we didn't talk for a year. He moved out of my house. The agreement was for him to live with me for 3 months. It was an experience for sure. It's hard living with people, but we were living in a 1-bedroom that was like 700 square feet, and it was
you were on top of each other.
On top of each other. Yeah. Couldn't piss without him hearing it. You know what I mean? It was just crazy. Like, and it was a very stressful situation. And again, my life was changing. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, so it was just crazy timing. But that time that we had away from each other, the whole time I was angry, right? He reached out to me. He's like, can we talk? And I'm like, fuck you. You know what I mean? Like, but like, I had to really step back. And my best friend, Dean, it's like my favorite person in the world. He's like, we don't hold grudges. We hold people accountable, right? So your favorite word is accountability. What did you do in the situation? Like, what part did you play in this, right? Like, you need to break that down, because if you're angry, that means you care. If you didn't care, say what you gotta say and keep it pushing. But because you love this person, you know what I mean? And I tell people all the time, love is a natural emotion. Hate is learned, right? So when you love people, you don't stop loving them. That's why it's so easy to take people back and be in these toxic relationships and keep those going, because love is just such a natural thing. So there was a lot of things that happened within that time, which is very difficult for me. So it was miscommunication. But again, I learned so much about myself, about grace. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like you hear a word and it turned me like, I'm 30. Ain't nobody ever explained to me what grace was before. You know what I mean? Yeah. But you get information, and when you're not ready for it, you don't receive it. Well, and then when you're at that place in your life, you're like, okay, I receive. Like, I understand what this means now. Yeah. So that time, that period of quiet that I had just to really reflect on a lot, I'm like, you know what? This happened. These are most likely the reasons that it happened, but it's okay, because every opportunity is an opportunity to be better. Like, the next time that I'm facing this situation, the next time I feel like my back is against the wall, I'm going to know how to deal with this better. I'm going to know how to communicate, to open up that dialect, to not feel like, okay, well, it's just everything's not a fuck you. Like, you're not that important. Like, and I tell people all that time, but I got to take my, like, you're not that important. People don't sit around, well, some people don't sit around all day thinking about how they can fuck you over. Yeah. You know? Yeah. So, learning experience. But, you have to go through that, because I tell people all the time, success is not a straight line. Success looks like this. Yeah. You know, like, so, and there's my favorite book, Siddhartha, is by Herman Hesse, and it talks about, so it's like loosely based off of the life of Buddha, and the big theme in the book is nirvana, right? Mm-hmm. So, like, your destiny, do you meet your destiny? So let's say you become a doctor. Are you a doctor because you knew in kindergarten that you wanted to be a doctor, so you always got good grades, you always stayed focused, you went to medical school and you became a doctor? Or did you think you wanted to be a pro football player and you get to the NFL and you hurt yourself and you really like the way that people take care of you, and you decide that you're going to go to school and then become a doctor? So, like, are you always going to be something? Are you always going to get to this point in your life? Or are you there based off of the decisions that you make? Gotcha. Yeah, so, man, learn so much.
Yes.
I'm usually the clumsy one, so I'm just happy that wasn't me. But how are you feeling?
I'm good. So, I mean, you speak a lot about, like I said, I feel like there's a lot of similarities. Just going through, coming out, like I said, coming out of depression, early 2020, even having the conversation, like you said, just conversations need to be had. Like I said, Calvin has a way of bringing out good conversations in you, right?
And pissing you off.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was doing. But so when Calvin and I actually had one of those moments, it was definitely, it was a lot going on that particular day. It's probably over a few months ago now, but a lot was going on. It was just a bad day, but you like you said, you never know what somebody's going through. So I came in, and it should have, could have been a conversation that was had, but I think all of that was built up. So it makes sense what you
said. It's hard to leave it at the door sometimes. Yeah. It's hard to leave it at the door.
And it was nothing that necessarily anybody in the room did, but it was just so much, like you just, when you're going through things outside, your mind can be in a different place. You know what I'm saying?
Your mind has a mind of its own.
Yeah. So that makes perfect sense. Everything that you were saying.
Especially because I always choose violence. I'm Aries. They have that meme. It's like that switch, like violence and chaos.
I'm a Pisces, so I really don't.
When's your birthday? Are you a March Pisces or a
February
Pisces?
28th.
No, I'm just because I know that there's a difference.
Yeah, there is definitely a difference. But I'm always like happy and lovable and want to make everybody happy. So, and I think that, I think that also is a lot of pressure on me. So
Absolutely.
Sometimes when
because who's refilling your cup?
Exactly. My mom always says that, when you pour in and you pour in and you pour in, but who's pouring into you?
Absolutely.
And stuff like, so when you have moments when you reach your boiling point, and like you said, that night in Rio, it wasn't even, that was just the icing on the cake. It wasn't even a big deal. It wasn't that deep. So it's situations like that. So it makes a lot of sense.
Absolutely. And so my mother is really good at teaching through parables, right? She looked like Jesus.
Yeah.
Sorry, Mama. So anyway, so one thing that makes me a really effective trainer and coach is that I know how to use real world experiences to help people understand what I'm trying to get them to convey, right? So one thing that I really true-heartedly believe is that social media has disabled our ability to move on with our lives, right? There are people that 20 years ago, maybe you worked with someone and then they got another job, or maybe you moved out of state and you never seen that person again. And that allowed them to play the part in your life that they were supposed to play. They were only supposed to be that part of your story. Now I got people who talk to me every day that I met in kindergarten. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So my thing, I say that to say is that there are some people in our lives who are only supposed to be there for a season, right? They had a purpose. There was something we were supposed to learn from them. It was something that we were supposed to take from that experience, and then we were supposed to move the fuck on. But social media no longer allows us to do that because people have so much access to us. So I say that to say that even though I was a part of the initial idea of the podcast, and it was a wonderful idea, we had a wonderful time, maybe the reason that this all worked out the way that it did is because that was just my job. It was just my job to get it off the ground. It was just my job to encourage Calvin and give him the fire that he needed to be like, I'm going to do this. And then that was it. And that's okay. And that's okay. And I'm learning that even with my relationships. Some of these relationships, it just feels like so much work, which relationships are work, but they don't have to be tiring work.
And I think sometimes we have not everybody is meant, people are meant to be in your life for seasons, and then sometimes for a lifetime. And I think sometimes we hold on to seasons thinking they're supposed to be a lifetime when we should have let something go.
Because social media doesn't allow us to move on with our life. But no, so I agree. And I feel like some of the relationships in my life right now, like I have a very solid group of friends. I got friends that I've been friends with literally my whole life. And we ain't never been in no arguments, never had no fights, never no disagreements, nothing. Like I got a solid group of friends, right? So when I meet people and I really like them, but they do something foul, I'm like, I can't really make no excuse for you because I've only known you for 4 years or 2 years or 1 year or whatever, but I've got somebody I've known since kindergarten and they never did nothing crazy like that. So like I can't, let this slide. So I say that to say that sometimes the reason that these things are happening is because these people have overstayed their welcome.
Absolutely.
Like we have to just, I am learning. I love Buddha. So there's another quote from Buddha that I really hold near and dear to my life. And it says, we are judged based off of how much we loved, how little damage we've done, and how gracefully we let go of things not meant for us. So, unfortunately, even though it hurts, like we have to let these seasons in our lives happen, because then we stunt our own growth. Because if I let you keep me here, I'm never going to make it here, and I'm going to be the person I'm supposed to be when I get there.
Yeah, or I should have been here, but I let you hold me back.
Exactly.
You know,
and I'm holding you back too. Yeah. Because that's the other thing. We wish people well, and we want to say, I just want to be happy, but what does that mean?
Yeah.
God, I don't want these people, I don't want anybody around me who's going to not be there for me, who's not cheering me on, who's not doing all these things, but what does that mean? Right? Like, there's a reality to the things that we ask God for and that we put out into the universe. I want a good life. Well, maybe that means that your best friend, that probably is not really your best friend, can't be a part of that because they're not supportive. Because they're not, everybody can't go.
And you can't go where everybody else is going too. Everybody likes to say it for us, right? Everybody can't go where I'm trying to go, but sometimes you can't go where they're going.
Right.
You know?
And when we tell people we want the best for them, we have to accept the fact that sometimes that means that we ain't a part of that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. There was this comedy special that me and my homegirls was watching one time, and like totally unrelated, and I always just feel like God gets a message to you however he needs to get it, right? So take my jacket off, about to start preaching. So he was saying, he's like, you know, if you're on a flight, right, say you're going from Miami to New York, there's a crew that's going to take you there, there's a pilot that's going to take you there, and they're going to get you there safely. But if you then want to go from New York to Paris, there's a whole different crew that's going to come on, right? Because the same people can't take you locally, internationally, and that's the same with the people around you. There are people who can get you to certain places in your life, but when you think in big picture, big goals, big end of the line, there are some people who can't get you there, and that's okay. Absolutely. That's okay, but you have to be able to recognize that and not let it hold you back, because I ain't getting stuck in New York. I'm going to the Eiffel Tower.
There you go. Okay.
I like her.
Absolutely. I always want to talk about, as far as like the structure of the podcast. I know you guys talked about it as well, but it's very important for me to have learned lessons from you. I think that the original first time we ever talked was like, what was the talk? It was like, why do I admire you? And you was like, I don't know.
He was lying.
But I did, and I took everything we've had conversations with and I applied it to the podcast at a high level. Like, I've literally taken everything we've talked about and applied it to the future podcast, regardless of whatever happened with us as far as like the podcast moving forward and your ideas about it's going to progress regardless whether you're part of it or not. But I've always been an advocate for you. I've always expressed that you helped do this. I'm like, this is a part of what we created in your apartment, and the fact that we have you back in the building it's literally amazing, because I've been talking about this for a long time. I'm on a tour to get everyone who was originally part of the original 6 back on, and you were a huge part of that, and you taught me a lot. You positioned me in a situation where I can kind of say no to certain people.
Yeah, that's awesome. One thing that I will say that I really am happy about myself that I can do is I know how not to compartmentalize. So like, yes, the podcast may have not worked out that I was a long-term co-host, but that doesn't change the way I feel about Calvin as a person. Absolutely. It just means that this thing did not work out. It is not the end-all be-all for our relationship, because our relationship is so much bigger than that. Yeah. So this one part, which is a very important part, but this one part, that's just like saying, you have been such a great person to me, but you stepped on my foot and now all bets are off. Like, that's kind of how I see it. Just like, you know, and like, unfortunately life happens, you know, like we have literally just went through a pandemic. This is something very dramatic to a lot of us. No, none of us have ever experienced anything like this, you know what I mean? Like the solitude, like the loss, like so much has happened. So, it also has kind of put so much space in between people, and it's not personal. You know, like I got friends that I don't even reply to the group chats, and these are people I've spoke to every day for like the last 10 years. I'm like, listen, sometimes I just don't feel like talking. Like, I've talked to people so much over the last year because we're just trying to keep these relationships intact, and we're trying to. I'm just like, today I don't want nobody to talk to me.
I just need some me time.
Yeah, I just need me time.
And that means I may last a couple days, and that's okay.
Yeah, but you know what? It's because once I realized that I just was pushing through things and I wasn't decompressing, now I take the time to decompress. Yeah. When things happen to me, especially like watching somebody deteriorate the way that we're watching Charles deteriorate right now. He had a major stroke back in March that's left him bedridden. He can't talk anymore. He's 100% paralyzed. He's in hospice care at this point. It is so difficult to watch somebody that you love suffer so much, and you know you can't do nothing about it. Yeah. So, like, every day after I'm off of work or any chance that I have, just like my dog, really, she is amazing. Like, I never had an animal before, so when I got Ro, I'm like, man, like, I love this damn dog so much, it's not funny. And like, sometimes I just be laying on the couch and she'll just like kind of crawl up on me. Sometimes we just look at each other. People like, what do you do all day? You know, on social media. I'm like, sometimes me and Ro just lay on the floor and roll around. Sometimes we just go for lots of walks. But like, I just am so thankful for these quiet moments that she encourages me to have, where it's just like, you know what, I don't really need to be on the phone right now because I'm paying attention to her. Yeah. Or I'm doing this, and like having that person that I can just focus all of my time and attention into is really self-care for me. And I feel like I disguised it as care for her, but it's not. It's just me taking that time to be quiet and shut the fuck up. Like, it feels amazing.
Yeah, it really does. It really does.
Absolutely. And just the fact that you're talking about, you know, personal issues, I think that at that time, a year and a half ago, I don't think personal issues were even like a talked about thing in our conversation.
Absolutely not. Because how easy is it for somebody to say, I'm struggling, I'm scared, I'm not prepared for this, and I'm somebody who tries to prepare. I'm always trying to be 100 steps ahead of everything. So like, it was just too much. And like I said, sometimes the easiest way to get through something is act like it's not there, which is not healthy and it's not productive, but it's what we do.
Do you feel like the pandemic has helped you as far as now saying, I need a moment?
Absolutely.
Or,
absolutely. And it gave me an excuse. Before, people had so much access to me, and I felt like I had to. Like, because you know, you're the strong friend. Like, I feel like, who am I if I'm not the person that you can come to? Who am I if I'm not the person that you know that you can depend on? And like, I tell people all the time, like, check on your strong friends too, because like we talked about, you always pour into people when but see, the one thing I can say is I have people who pour into me. However, I had this idea of myself that I couldn't let people pour into me and know that I was struggling with things, knowing that I needed help, because then it would make me weak. And I don't want anybody to think I was weak, because I didn't want them to think that I couldn't be that soldier that they needed me to be. So now I'm at the point, I'm like, bitch, I can't today. Like, I can't today, because sometimes, like, my oldest sister, like, I joke all the time, like, she's on 10 or 2, she's so emotional, right? Like, any minor inconvenience just like sets her whole day off. And like, sometimes it'd be like, hey, I'm at work and I'm lying like hell, I'm like watching like Wild 'N Out. I'm just like, I cannot take on her energy. And that's one thing that I've learned in the pandemic. Like, I don't have to take on this energy from you. It's not my willingness to take on your trauma is not a testament of how much I love you. That's not love. It's not love, it's control. We don't realize it's control. So the pandemic definitely was a blessing and a curse, because it gave me that, and I don't think I would have got it any other way.
And absolutely, I think that even talking like this now is a growth, like projection. Like, that shit is different, and I'm sure we can eventually have like a way different conversation than we would have had a year ago. We're a year and a half plus now.
Listen, you know what my mom always tells me? We got this much space with people, right? So like, if you put your 2 hands in front of you, it's like 2 feet. And when people behave badly or things are not going good and your wires are getting crossed, you got to stop and remove yourself, because if you can get to a point of peace that you can actually be productive and work things out, you got all this space to make shit happen. But when you let something run down to the end, it's just over. It's just over. So I don't think I would have been, even with like my best friend, with me being so angry about the things that happened when he lived with it.
What's Neil? What was his name?
Aaron. Yeah, so people be like, what is his name? I'm like, Aaron. They're like, spelled it like A-A-R-O, and they're like, is that what you're saying?
I definitely thought I heard Aaron.
A-R-N. No, Aaron. Yeah. So
that's the Baltimore.
Yeah. So like, I would have never been able to give him the grace that I needed to give him to just get out of my own way and have that conversation and be like, I could have handled some things better in that situation as well. But
1,000%. She used to come to work like, he just did something that I didn't agree with, and he's there.
It's just like, you can't. It was bad. Don't live with people if you don't have to.
Let me tell you something. I 100% agree.
Yeah, especially because like we are not in a romantic relationship, but we are sharing all of this space together. Like you want to walk around with your shirt off. My friends are here. I'm like, what are you doing? Like it was just too much. It was too much.
After my divorce, one of my best friends from college moved in with me because she had just gone through a breakup. This is back when I was like 25. Unfortunately, we are not friends anymore.
Listen.
Living together can ruin your relationship.
Absolutely.
Especially because you feel so entitled to your anger. I felt so entitled
I'm like, bitch,
to my
clean the
anger.
bathroom. Why is it crusted? You are a female. Like, why is the
Listen, those conversations never happen when you have people.
Yeah. Because like I said, you feel so. I felt so entitled to my anger. Well, let's be honest. A lot of it, I was entitled to the anger, but like I felt so entitled to being upset and to just wanting to be right that like I was literally about to give up a 10-year, 11-year friendship. Like we never had not one argument, not no dispute until we lived together. I've
grown, like I've moved on, but I'm still blocked. Like, look, I just feel like when my parents came to visit me, I had my mom and my dad. The final straw for me was I had a son. He was 5 at the time. If I buy my son snacks, don't eat my son's snacks. I mean, I feel like I gotta tell you that, right? So that's that. But then also, what the final straw was for me is my parents had come down to visit. My dad is in the living room. Why are you walking around in a towel? That is disrespectful.
I'd have had to pop her.
I told her she had to leave after that. Like, you're not going to be disrespecting my mom. You're not going to be walking around.
Girl, this is not Players Club.
Yeah, who you think you are?
Ebony, you played on my face.
Yeah. So that was my final straw, and I feel like I was justified in that. Like you're not going to do that.
Absolutely.
So, and then her dog chewed up my son's soccer goal. I was like, you need to replace that before you leave.
Now that I think, you know what? I ain't gonna say it. I am gonna say it. Some of my moisturizers that he would use. It's really weird how men like to use our stuff, right?
Yes.
Some of the moisturizers that I had were like $40. I'm like, why are you using that? He's like, well, it makes my skin. I don't care. Go get your own.
Right.
Or he would use something of my stuff, like my body wash. I had this really expensive body wash that was made from rose water. He used it up, and then he got another one and use that up too. I'm like, no. See, when you replace mine, you should have got something of your own or the same.
You need to get
and use yours. Like, I'm like, why do you want to walk around smelling like this? Well, I feel so. I don't care. Like, it was a very difficult situation.
Yeah.
But in hindsight, like when we got the chance to really kind of sit down and have that difficult conversation, he was saying that, you know, when he left Baltimore, it wasn't because, my best friends and also want to go there. Like, he felt the same way that I felt that I was there. Like, I'm not going to be any more than I am if I stay here.
Yeah.
So he was
get stuck.
Yeah, and he was excited to come here, and I'm so happy here, and he was just ready to have that happiness too.
Yeah.
So he was doing very selfish things, but he was doing them because he was just trying to create a life and to be happy.
Huh?
Are you talking about your roommate? Did he smash one of your friends?
We're not going to get into that. We're not going to get into that.
In your place?
Calvin?
He's trying to take it there.
You see how he do? You see what I'm saying?
He's trying to take it there.
He knows my buttons, and he just be sitting there like just like a little kid with a joystick, like, I'm gonna get this bitch.
All he has to do is jump that.
He knows. Calvin knows how to get to me.
I'm not trying to get too deep into that, but is that off limits for him to
smash your friend in your place while he's living there, not paying rent?
So this is the issue, right? The place that I have now is a 2-bed, 2-bathroom. It's like 1,200 square feet. If we had been in a situation where we lived in this place, it wouldn't have been a problem because we had space. Would have had space that we didn't have to share. In that apartment, because it was so small, there wasn't an inch of that apartment that we did not have to share, and that's why it was an issue for me. Was that.
So it's not the friend.
It wasn't a friend at all. Nope, they're together having a wonderful relationship. That's great. It was the fact that we are sharing this very small space, and I felt very disrespected by the fact that you did that.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so that was the issue.
Okay.
But again, unfortunately, you doing things to make yourself happy, but unfortunately it has a negative effect on me, but that's not your intention, is still selfish. You know, so he acknowledged that, and he's like, I also put a lot of pressure on you for you to just create this wonderful life for me. You know, like you didn't just get this overnight. Like, you cultivated these relationships, you've done all these things, and I put a lot of pressure on you to create that for me. Gotcha. I was like, you did, and unfortunately, I didn't give you the grace that you deserve because I had just got life-changing news the day you got here. I was losing my job. So it was just a lot going on. There were conversations that I could have had that we didn't have. There were times that, like, so with us, it's a little different. Like, he knows, like, I wows out. You know what I mean? But that's our relationship. You know, like, with my friends from back home, like, they know, like, I just, because I'm confrontational, and I'm not confrontational to the point where, like, I'm negative or I'm toxic. I am going to
address it.
Yeah, I'm going to address it because I want to move on.
Yeah.
But he's the type of person, he's not confrontational, right? He likes, I tell him all the time, you like to set fires and run from the smoke. Don't poke the bear. And he likes to, he will poke the bear. I'm like, don't poke the bear. You know what I mean? Because, like, if you want to talk about it, we can talk about it, but don't get your feelings hurt when I tell you the truth. So it was a big learning experience. He had never lived with anybody. He had never dated before. I had never lived with anybody that I didn't date before. So it was also that he was a man and I was a woman. Certain things just weren't acceptable. Yeah. You know, so.
But y'all are in a good place now.
We're in a good place now. Good. We needed that time apart. We needed that time apart, and we had never had it. I mean, and when you think about it, we had never been in that situation before. So yes, we've been best friends since we were 18 because we met in college, right? So, like, rocking strong, never had an argument, always there for each other. But, like, we had never been in a situation where we were going to have to see these things from each other because you don't know people till you live with them.
Exactly.
You know? So,
you don't know their hygiene. You don't know, you don't know nothing about them.
Let me tell you something.
I'm very grateful for that space that we have because I feel like.
Is he still here?
He's still here, and one of his best friends from Baltimore lives here now too. So we bring it in the city. But yeah, so one thing that I like to say came from that is that it helped us grow up. You know what I mean? Like we didn't try to say, okay, well, we're just going to pick up from where we were because we couldn't, because we're different now. You know, our relationship is different now. Absolutely. And I'm thankful that he understood. I'm like, listen, we can't just hop on back on this like everything's gravy. Let's work through these things and let's unpack it. And we did that, and now we're wonderful.
That's good. That's good. Like you said, I think you said it perfect. You have to grow up, and you have to have those difficult conversations. You have to.
And you have to want to.
And address it head on. So that's good.
I had to get over myself.
Somebody go tell old girl to unblock me so we can grow up.
But you know what? Everybody you lose is not a loss.
This is true.
Because like we talked about, there are some people that we should have lost contact with a long time ago, but we have so much access. That's the other reason why I don't like to be on social media, because I feel like there's certain people I only hear from when I post things, and it's so irritating. Like, I literally can tell who has notifications on me based off of the same first three people are always watching my stuff. I'm like, I know you got the notification.
Turned on.
I will put money on it. So, yeah, I say that to say that, like, certain people just have so much access to me on social media, and because of me being an author and me trying to, my next book is going to be dropping soon. You know what I mean? I'm putting the finishing touches on it now. So it's like, unfortunately, it's a necessary evil. I have to have this tool because it does help me promote, and I'm terrible at marketing. So, like, it's easy to get the support from the people that you know and already are big fans of you, but the double-edged sword of that is that people literally can just reach out to you, and whether you respond or not, you get the message, and it just, like, it affects you.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And see, I'll say this before we reach out to Raven. I see the growth. Like, I think that I haven't talked to you in like a year and a half.
Yeah.
Right. And I see the difference. Like,
just so you know, I haven't talked to really anybody. So it's not personal.
Per the conversation, it's different. You know, like, the way we can kind of communicate is different now.
It kind of makes me sad that you thought that I was going to say no. But
I mean,
I can understand why you feel that, because you haven't heard from me. You know what I mean?
Even originally, like, I think that you're the first person I even pitched the idea to, like, at work.
Yeah, I love to talk shit.
It wasn't that you thought she was going to say no to come on today, but you're talking about when you originally asked her.
The original podcast.
I thought that you meant. You thought I was going to say no to today, like when you were like, "Hey, I want to have you back on the show." I thought. No.
It was the original concept. Why would you say no? You were the first person that I took. So why
do you think she said no back then? Because she was your boss?
No, I didn't give a fuck. Listen to her.
Calvin and I had a very inappropriate work relationship because I knew that I could trust him. Yeah, I knew that I could trust him, so I would tell him things that I really, as a leader, should not have told him about. People like, I just needed to get it off my chest so I can move on. I'm just like, listen, I'm about to fire his ass. Like, I just needed to get it out so I can move on. Like, I can't stand this bitch.
Yeah.
And you know for a fact I'm not going to say nothing because I don't talk to people.
He saved her life a few times too, because I could get my aggression out and I can move on with my day.
Right, so if he wasn't there, she would have got it.
Listen. That's
why I said if you guys are cool, but if you're not, then that's tough. But Hey guys, you might have noticed that the episode cut out mid-sentence. Unfortunately, there were some technical difficulties that we were going through, and we weren't able to fully record the second half of the conversation with Miss Ciera Dotson. So my apologies. We will see you guys next week for episode 18. Thank you for listening. You guys enjoy the rest of your day or night, however you guys are watching, whenever you guys are watching this episode. This is the Can We Talk podcast. Bye, guys.